Y'all ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Mr. Moman, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. Let's go ahead and get started with your case. We're on the record in 23 CPR 038782, estate of Sultan Ali Moman. It's all yours. You may proceed.
Okay. Give me a second here. Now. Pulling up my yes, Your Honor. I'm here to provide testimony for the application for appointment of executor and letters testimony for the estate of Sultan Ali Moman. My name is Salman Ali Moman. Sultan Ali Moman died on December 31st, 2022 in Sugar Land, Fort Bend County, Texas, at the age of 74 years. 4 years have been elapsed since the date of his death. He was domiciled in a fixed place of residence in this county on the date of death. The document, which has previously been submitted to the court, dated January 9th, 2020.
I'm sorry, January was dated when? Your connection is a little jumpy.
January 9th, 2020.
Thank you.
Which I'm looking at here is a copy of the exact original of the will. It was never revoked, so far as I know. And on the date of the will, the descendant was a sound man and had attained the age of 18 years.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mooney, could you repeat that? The decedent was?
Sound mind and had attained the age of 18 years. No child or children were born to or adopted by decedent after the date of the will. No marriage of the decedent was dissolved by divorce or annulment after the will was made. A necessity does exist for the administration of the estate. No state, governmental agency, or charitable organization is named by the will as a devicee. The descendant's will does name myself, Salman Ali Moman, to serve without bond or other security as an independent executor. I'm not disqualified by law from accepting letters testimony, nor from serving as such, and I'm entitled to such letters. Based on the foregoing, I'm requesting that I be appointed as executor, that appraisers be waived, and that the bond be waived. Letters are be issued.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Sal Moman. He testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will into probate and appoint Mr. Moman as independent executor to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. Counsel, or anything else? Have a great day.
Good morning.
Morning. Mr. Working, are you there?
I am, sir.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 23 CPR 038695, the state of Kamarudin Vellani. All those who intend to testify, if you'd raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
You're
Mr.
muted, sir.
Vellani, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Yes,
Very good. Mr. Workin, you may take it from here.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Verlani, would you please state your name?
Kareem Kamruddin Walani.
And you were named as independent executor under the last will and testament of Kamarudin Vellani?
Yes.
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 Yes. And he passed away on April 18th, 2022, at the age of 67 years of age. 4 years have
Yes.
not elapsed from the date of his death to the date of filing of this application.
Yes.
And he was domiciled in Fort Bend County at the time of his death.
Yes.
Yeah, and he owned real and personal property and investments which have a probable value that's not currently ascertainable. However, the estate is not taxable.
Yes.
Yeah, and the will on the screen. Yeah. Was
Let me
executed-
put the will on the screen. Hold on. I'll
Okay.
put it up there. Go ahead, Mr. Workin.
Yeah, and the will on the screen is your father's will. It was executed on April 13th, 2022, and as far as you know, it was never revoked.
Yes.
Yeah, and there were no marriages that were dissolved after the date of the will.
No.
And there were no children born to or adopted by your father after making the will.
No.
And there were no governmental agencies or charitable organizations named as beneficiaries under the will.
No.
And you're not disqualified from serving as the executor under the will.
Yes.
And you request that the court allow the administrator to be administered independently of the court supervision.
Yes.
And you request that the court waive the need for any appraisers.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Kareem Vellani. He testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will and the probate, appoint Mr. Vellani as independent executor to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. Mr. Vellani, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Mr. Workin, anything further?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, y'all have a great day. You're free to go.
Okay, you too.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you so much.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 22 CPR 038299, state of Mary Lou Hilly. All those who intend to testify, if you'd raise your right hand to be sworn by the court, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, very good. Mr. Bouillon, you may proceed.
Mr. Hilly, is it correct that your mother died on July 31st, 2022? Yes, sir.
And she died in Houston, Harris County, Texas at the age of 81.
Yes, sir.
And 4 years have not elapsed since the date of her death.
No, sir.
She was a resident of and domiciled in Fort Bend County, Texas.
Yes, sir.
And her address was 44 Wellington Court, Missouri City, Texas.
Yes, sir.
The document that you see in front of me, do you recognize this document that's just showing on the screen right now?
Yes, sir.
And what is this document?
That's my mother's will.
And it is dated February 25th, 2005.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we ask that the court take judicial notice that this is the will of Mary Lou Hilly.
Court shall take judicial notice that the original will of Miss Hilly is on file with the court.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hilly, is there a necessity for the administration of this estate?
You're muted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Your mother was, and you are named as the executor in the will, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And there were no children born or adopted after the execution of this will, is that correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And your mother was never divorced?
Correct.
And there's no state or governmental agency or charitable organization named as a devisee in the will, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you are qualified and not disqualified from being the executor of the estate?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And your mother never revoked the will?
You broke up, but I think you said she never revoked the will. That's correct.
And when she made the will, she was over the age of 18, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And there has been no contest or objection to the probate of the will, is that correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor. At this
Can you
time,
repeat that?
You're breaking up, Counselor. You need to repeat that.
Your Honor, at this time, we would like to, still breaking up?
No.
Continue. I can hear you.
Okay. We'd like to ask that the will be admitted to probate and into the court records. Mary Lee Hilly was a decedent. She died on July 31st, 2022. She was a resident of Fort Bend County. The will that's been accepted is dated February 25th, 2005. No children were born or adopted. She was never divorced. There's no state or governmental agency or charitable organization named in the will. She did not receive Medicaid benefits after March 1st, 2005. Mr. Paul Hilly, her son, is named the independent executor in the will. He is not a convicted felon and is such qualified and not disqualified by law for accepting letters testamentary. We ask that the decedent's will filed in connection with the estate be admitted into probate, and no bond or security is required. And upon taking the filing of the oath, Paul Hilly shall be issued independent letters, testamentary, and appointed independent executor of the decedent's estate. I think that.
Thank you, Counselor. The court heard the testimony of Paul Hilly. He testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will to probate and appoint Mr. Hilly as independent executor to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived. Mr. Hilly, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counselor, anything further?
No, Your Honor. May we be excused?
You may.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank
You
you,
too.
Judge.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Annie, is somebody showing up for Carrie Worrell?
Would you like me to call their office? I'm not aware of anybody else.
Yeah, go ahead and call them. Nobody's here. Thanks.
Morning, Judge.
Morning.
Hey, again, thanks for coming up with that Zoom waiver. That you saved me a bunch of time getting that together for my intake.
Good. Ms. Prohoda, are you there?
Mr. Perhoda.
Mr.
Tracy,
Prohoda, I'm sorry. The camera's off.
Tracy, if you can hear us, turn on your camera and your. Tracy, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Here you come.
There we go. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 23 CPR 038717 in state of Christy Lynn Prohoda. Mr. Prohoda, if you'd raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Mr. Junker, you may take it from here.
Tracy, if you could state your full name and what your relation was to Christy.
Tracy Lee Prohoda. I'm the husband of
Now,
Christy.
did Christy pass away on December 5th of 2022 in Houston?
Yes, sir.
At the time of her passing, she was living in Damon in Fort Bend County. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, Your Honor, thank you for showing the will. We'd ask the court take judicial notice that the original is on file with the court.
The court shall take judicial notice.
Tracy, you see that original will on the screen right now, the copy of it, which we
Yes, sir.
drafted here in my office, and Christy executed there at the hospital. You recognize that as her will?
Yes, sir.
You recognize that as her signature there at the end, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And it was, y'all had two witnesses there, and Yvonne was there to notarize it. So we didn't need to bring anybody else into court today. Judge, you can take that off the screen. Thank you so much. Was Christy of sound mind when she signed that will?
Yes, sir.
Was she at least 18?
Yes, sir.
She never revoked that will, did she?
No, sir.
She didn't have any children born to or adopted by her after she signed that will.
No, sir.
She did not dissolve a marriage, meaning she did not get divorced or annul her marriage to you after she signed that will.
No, sir.
Did she give anything to the state of Texas or any governmental entity or charity that we need to give further notice to?
No, sir.
Does the will name you to serve as independent executor without bond?
Yes, sir.
And is there a need to administer the estate? Does she have a few things that were just in her name we want to go ahead and get cleared up?
No, sir.
But we do have a couple of things that we do need some letters.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's no reason you'd be disqualified from serving.
No,
You
sir.
are fully qualified to serve, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, nothing further, Your Honor. We'd ask that the will of Christy Lynn Prohoda be admitted to probate. Letters testamentary issued to Tracy Prohoda. No bond and appraisers waived.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Tracy Lee Prohoda. He testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will into probate and appoint Mr. Prohoda as independent executor to serve that bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. Mr. Prohoda, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Junker, anything else?
Nothing more. Y'all have a great week, and I'll be back in touch for that other case.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Judge,
I got your chat. I know, I'll pull in Ms. Patel. They do need to notify us and let us know.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I got your chat.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Ms. Mello, can you hear me?
Yes, now, I'm sorry, this is the first time I've ever done Zoom, so.
All right, well, it's not gonna be too difficult. We'll get through this just fine today. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 22 CPR 038632, state of Henrietta Whitaker Pike. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony provided here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
Very good. Ms. Patel, you may get us started.
Okay. Judge, I'm here on behalf of Carrie Worrell, okay? Ms. Mello, can you please state your full name for the court?
Bonnie Jean Pike Mello.
Okay. Are you the daughter of Henrietta Whitaker Pike, who died on December 3rd, 2022 in Missouri City, Fort Bend County, Texas?
Yes,
Was Ms. Pike age 96, residing in Missouri City, Fort Bend County, Texas 77459 at and before her death?
yes,
To your knowledge, did Ms. Pike die without revoking her will dated May 28th, 2013?
I'm sorry.
To the
Did
best of your knowledge,
I mean, she passed away and there's only one will.
okay? And then to your knowledge, the will that you see on the screen, is this a true and correct copy of her will?
Yes,
Okay. Was there a child or any children born to Ms. Pike after the execution of this will?
no,
At the time of the execution of the will, was Ms. Pike of sound mind and at least 18 years of age?
she was 96 years old. She'd had Alzheimer's since about 2015.
Okay. Did Ms. Pike have a marriage dissolve after the will was made?
No,
Have 4 years elapsed since her death and the date when the application for the probate of her will was filed?
no,
Is any Texas governmental entity or a charity a devisee under the will?
no,
Does a necessity exist for the administration of her will?
yeah, I guess. I mean,
Okay. Does the will appoint you as the independent executor to serve without bond? And are you qualified and not disqualified for any reason from serving as independent executor and from accepting letters of testamentary?
I can. I mean, yes.
Okay. I pass the witness, Judge.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Bonnie Jean Pike Mello. She testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will and the probate, appoint Miss Mello as independent executrix to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived in this matter as well. Miss Mello, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Ms. Patel, is there anything further?
No, that's all we need. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it?
Wait. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Volz, can you hear me?
Sorry, I was having trouble with the mouse.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 22 CPR 038533, state of Marielle Kathleen Scalisi, aka Marielle Kathleen Louise Scalisi. All those intended to testify, if you'd raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Very good. Mr. Bolts, you may take it from here. I will put the will up on the screen for you as well.
I call Catherine Boujean. Ms. Boujean, will you state your name for the court?
You're muted, ma'am.
At the bottom left of your screen, there's a mute button. Move your mouse to the bottom left.
How about now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. For some reason, wasn't doing that. Catherine Fenelon Bourgeon,
Ms. Boujean, how long did you know Ms. Scalisi?
since 2018, we coupled to work together.
And what was your relationship with Ms. Scalisi?
We started coupling in 2018 and we became friends since then.
Is it true that she passed away on October 25th, 2022 at the age of 38?
Yes,
Are you familiar with her signature?
yes.
How did you become familiar with Ms. Scalisi's signature?
I witnessed her signing her will.
And so you're one of the signatories to the will on the screen, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And the document that's on the screen is, do you recognize that as the will of Ms. Scalisi?
Yes,
Do you recognize your signature
yes,
and Ms. Scalisi's signature?
yes,
Thank you. To the best of your knowledge, is this a true and correct copy of the will?
yes,
I'm sorry, I asked the court to take judicial notice that it's an original document.
Well, it's.
Oh,
my-
I'm sorry, it's a copy. I apologize.
Yeah. The court shall take judicial notice that a copy of the will is on file with the court.
Okay. Are you receiving any inheritance or benefit from your testimony today?
no,
I pass the witness. May I call next Ashley Post?
You may.
Will you state your name, please?
Ashley East.
East. And how long did you know Ms. Scalisi?
About 6-7 years.
And what was your relationship with her?
Her son and my daughter started out in kindergarten together, and we lived 2 houses down from each other. We'd take the kids on play dates, and we would hang out as neighbors and friends.
Okay, is it true that Ms. Scalisi died on October 25th, 2022 at the age of 38?
Yes.
Is it true that your signature is a signature on the will that the court is showing on the screen?
Yes.
And is it true that you witnessed Ms. Scalisi sign that will?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you getting any benefit or inheritance from this testimony?
No.
I pass the witness.
Witness.
I call Miss Michelle Shee.
Yes.
Ms. Shee, are you the applicant for to be independent executor of the estate of Marielle Scalisi?
Yes.
Your relationship is you and her mother?
Yes.
Miss Shee, is it true that she owned property generally described as real estate, personal effects, and household goods that had a value of approximately $52,000?
Yes.
Is it true that there is a necessity to probate the will of Ms. Scalisi?
I'm not exact. Is it a necessity?
Is there a necessity, let's say, to deal with her property?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay. And the will that was shown on the screen a moment ago, do you recognize that as the will of your daughter?
Yes.
All right. After the will was signed, did Miss Scalisi have any children?
No,
Did she adopt any children?
no,
Was there any marriage dissolved after she signed that will?
no,
You were named independent executrix, is that correct?
yes,
You're not disqualified from holding the post of independent executor of the estate, is that correct?
correct.
Is it also true that there's no government agency, state, or charitable organization named in the will?
No, it's correct.
Okay. And the names of all the heirs are listed in the application.
Correct.
Are you asking the court to admit the will of probate and appoint you independent executives of the estate?
Yes.
Without bond?
I'm
Without
sorry.
bond?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, correct.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Catherine Borgine, Ashley East, and Michelle Shee. They testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. Validity of a copy of the will. The court will admit a copy of the will into probate and appoint Miss Michelle Shee as independent executrix to serve without bond, and appraisers are waived as well. Miss Shee, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And Miss East and Miss Borgine, thank you all so much for coming on today to help prove this up.
You're
Thank
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Bolt,
you.
is there anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Y'all are free to go. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have Miss DeFord here for the next case.
Her office already emailed and called. They said, when will they get heard? They've been waiting and waiting. I told them to be patient. We take, go case by case. I can check again.
Making your co-host, Annie, you can see for yourself that all I have is Nathan Bratton in there. Morning, Mr. Phillips. If I can get you to unmute yourself.
Okay, that should be better.
All right, very good. All right, we're here in cause number 21 CPR 0368823, guardianship of Allison S. Hounsford. Ms. Eckelkamp, this is a transfer out of county to Florida. Morning, Mr. Phillips. If I can get you to unmute yourself. Oh, if y'all could turn that YouTube channel off.
Okay, that should be better.
All right, very good. Okay. And then we need to prove up attorney's fees as well on this matter. Ms. Eckelkamp, why don't we do this? Just a little testimony from Mr. Phillips on the transfer, not too much, just necessary under the circumstances. And then just your attorney's fee prove up as well. Mr. Phillips, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Very good. Ms. Eckelkamp?
Mr. Phillips, can you please state your name for the court?
Bradley Phillips.
And how is it that you are related to the ward Allison S. Pounsford?
She's my sister and I am her guardian.
And in fact, you were appointed guardian on May 23rd of last year by this court. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And your sister has no relatives in Texas specifically. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did you find it difficult to oversee your sister's care while being a resident of Florida?
While she was in Texas, the long distance made it very difficult, yes.
And in fact, since the filing of our application requesting a provisional order to transfer the guardianship to Florida, you arranged for your sister to leave the state of Texas, and she has indeed moved to Florida. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Has your sister returned to the state of Texas since you moved her to Florida with you?
No.
And where is she currently residing?
She is approximately 15 minutes from my home in the town of Northport, Florida, at Discovery Commons, South Biscayne is the name of the facility.
And do you believe that it was in your sister's best interest for her to move to be near you?
Absolutely.
Is she getting appropriate care and attention now that she's near you?
Yes, she is. And more importantly, I get to see her on a weekly basis, if not more than once a week.
And are you asking that this court sign a provisional order to transfer the guardianship to Florida?
Yes, indeed.
And in fact, you have already obtained counsel in Florida, and they requested that we get the provisional order. And once we have that, they will then be able to begin the process for Florida to accept. But you do understand that we will need to return to this court for a formal order to finalize that transfer. Is that correct?
If you tell me that, I believe it.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of Dr. Phillips.
The provisional order for transfer of guardianship to Florida is going to be granted. Ms. Eckelkamp, you've got, what is it, roughly 29,000 attorney's fees, I think it is?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why don't you give me a prove up on those?
Yes, Your Honor. Our firm was retained by the guardian of the now appointed guardian of the person in estate of the ward Allison S. Pounsford. We worked with him to seek guardianship in the state of Texas. And part of that guardianship involved getting a doctor's capacity assessment and having the former agent under power of attorney removed as agent due to the fact that he himself was under a guardianship. There were a considerable amount of time expended between the dates of September 9th, 2021 and the date of the last billing on this application for attorney's fees of August 30th, 2022. The guardian applicant, Bradley Phillips, deposited a retainer of $5,000 with the firm as security for costs and expenses prior to the filing of the guardianship for his sister here in Fort Bend County, Texas. The attorney is owed a remaining amount of $24,721.32 for our time and expenses associated with assisting Ms. Dr. Phillips in getting appointed as his sister's guardian and administering the guardianship through the date of August 30th, 2021. We'd ask that the court approve the total amount of fees of $29,721.32 and award the balance to be paid from the guardianship funds of $24,721.32, and that the guardian be reimbursed for his $5,000 deposit retainer filed with our firm Rapp and Kroc.
Your attorney's fees are granted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Echo Camp. Anything further for the record?
No, Your Honor, we'll be seeing you in the near future to formalize the transfer of this guardianship. We appreciate your assistance.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Phillips, good luck to you.
Thank you. Can I see you again, Judge? If not in person, at least by Zoom, third time around.
There we go. All right. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Annie, I'm going to finish.
It's Miss Aguilar. Their office did not notify us that someone would be coming on for them. It's she has somebody that's going to be assisting her, and Araceli Aguilar.
Okay. I'll get to that in just a minute. I'm going to finish signing all this. Annie, before we, I want you to take a look at Pounsford's application for ratification, reimbursement, and payment of attorney's fees.
Yes,
Go
Judge.
down to the fourth paragraph. Take a look at it. We'll deal with it. I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
Yes, Judge. And then I don't see the witnesses, Judge. Cryshawn Breton and Michael Breton. They'll be testifying as to signature and handwriting.
I'm here, and
Perfect.
Christian's here.
All right. Very good. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 22 CPR 037741 in the estate of Jimmy Faye Bratton. Let me get Mr. Nathan Bratton to turn on his video.
And Your Honor, Mr. Nathan Bratton will not be testifying today. We'll have Mr. Michael Bratton and Kishan Bratton testifying, but he wants to be present to observe.
That's fine then. All right. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court.
I guess maybe you should stand up real quick so that the court can see you.
Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
All right. Very good. Counselor, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Turn it up a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. 1 second. Okay. All right. Mr. Bratton, can you please state your full name for the record?
Michael Lewis Bratton.
And were you personally acquainted with Mr. Jimmy Faye Bratton?
Yes,
And how were you acquainted with him?
he was my father.
Okay. And were you well acquainted with his handwriting and signature?
Yes,
And how did you become acquainted with his handwriting and signature?
numerous cards and notes that he had written to me and writings that I had seen, help with homework.
Okay. And the court is showing you, they just pulled up on their screen, and also you have a copy in front of you of a document that purports to be your father's will. Now, is this document fully in his handwriting?
Yes, it is.
And is the signature at the bottom? And you have it in front of you as well. It's signature at the bottom, his signature.
Yes, it is.
And to the best of your knowledge, on February 22nd, 1985, which is the date that he executed this will, was he of sound mind?
Yes,
And was he already 18 years old?
yes.
Yes. Okay. Can I call Ms. Kishan Bratton, Your Honor?
Proceed.
Okay. So what do you guys want to switch, or do you want me to just switch? Okay. Okay, thank you. And then can you please state your full name for the record, please?
Christian Dominique Bratton.
And were you personally acquainted with Mr. Jimmy Faye Bratton?
Yes,
And how are you acquainted with
he's
him?
my father-in-law, was my father-in-law.
Okay, and were you familiar and acquainted with his handwriting and signature?
Yes,
And how did you become acquainted with his handwriting and signature?
cards, presents, gifts, little poems that he would write.
Okay, and now the court is showing you, and also you have a copy in front of you of what has been purported to be Mr. Bratton's will. Now, is this document fully in his handwriting?
Yes,
And is the signature at the bottom right here, and also on the screen, is that his signature?
yes,
And to the best of your knowledge, on February 22nd, 1985, which is the date that he executed this will, was he of sound mind?
yes,
And had he attained the age of 18?
yes.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for these witnesses, and may I call Ms. Sandra Bratton, please? And you'll have to swear her in. I hadn't had you swear her in before.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I pulled a muscle, so I'm moving. slowly.
Okay.
Bratton, if you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Okay, and can you
Proceed.
please state your full name for the record, please?
Sandra Jean Paddock Bratton.
And how are you related to Mr. Jimmy Faye Bratton?
He was my husband.
Okay, and did he die on or about December 19th, 2009 in Katy, Fort Bend
Yes.
County?
Yes.
Okay, and was he age 71 and also residing in Katy, Fort Bend County at and before his death?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, did your husband die without revoking his will dated February, is it 7th, February 22nd, 1985?
Right.
Okay, and was his will solely in his handwriting?
Yep.
And was it signed by him?
Yes.
Okay. And were you married to him when he executed this will?
Yes.
And were you married to him at the time of his death?
Yes.
So is it accurate to say that no marriage of Mr. Bratton was ever dissolved after the will was made?
Right.
Okay. And was there a child or any children born to or adopted by your husband after the execution of the will?
No.
And at the time of the execution of the will, was he of sound mind and at least 18 years old?
Oh, yes.
And were you named as the independent executor? in the will?
Yes.
And is the state of Texas or any charity a beneficiary under his will?
No, he left everything to me.
Okay, that was, and so is it accurate to say you were the sole beneficiary of his will?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And now, were you aware that there was a requirement to apply to probate his will within 4 years of the date of his death in order to transfer the real property held in both
Yeah.
of your names?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know anything about probate. I didn't know anybody that died except my parents, and my brother took care of that.
So is it fair
So
to
I didn't know. I didn't know I was supposed to.
Okay,
Everything was in my name too.
thank you.
So
And at the time of his death, did your husband own property valued in excess of $100,000 in Fort Bend County?
yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, there are no debts in the estate and there's no need for an administration of the estate?
Right.
And to the best of your knowledge, your husband did not apply for Medicaid benefits on or after March 1st, 2005?
No, he was military.
Okay. And are you asking the court to admit your husband's will to probate as a muniment of title only?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, we'd request that the court admit Jimmy Faye Bratton's will to probate as a muniment of title and that the requirement of filing an affidavit of fulfillment of terms of will be waived.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Sandra Jean Paddock Bratton and the two witnesses to the handwriting. They testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. Now the court finds that Sandra Jean Paddock Bratton is not in default for failing to offer the will for probate within 4 years of decedent's death. So the court will admit the will and the probate as a muniment of title, and I'll waive the affidavit of fulfillment of terms as well. Ms. Bratton, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Ms. Aguilar, anything further for the record?
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Did you see what I was talking about, Annie? You're muted.
I did, Judge. I'll have her file another.
Thank you.